Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. Welcome. Today, I'm doing something a little bit different. And by a little bit different, I mean I am going to be working on this computer right behind me, which you can see is a desktop computer. As a matter of fact, it's my desktop computer. In actuality, this desktop computer is almost retro. It's like 7 or 8 years old, which is, in the terms of computers, pretty old. So I'm going to be doing something to it that I'm hoping is going to prolong its life a little longer than maybe hopefully in the future. I'm going to get something better, but for now, we're going to take a look at what this computer is, what I've done to it already, what I'm doing to it, and is it even worth having one of these computers other than for office work, because this was originally my office computer. All right, so yeah, before we jump into doing anything to this computer, I would like to say a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can have PCBs printed starting at only $5 for 10 boards. Reasonably priced PCB printing is not the only thing they do. They also have a shared projects page full of items from other hobbyists like you that are ready to be ordered. And they have the module store full of items you may need for working on your next project. So why not try PCBWay today by visiting www.pcbway.com and PCB prototype the easy way. This is the Acer Aspire TC-885 computer. This one is from 2018 and was originally sold with an Intel i5-8400 CPU, which is a 6-core, 6-thread chip that runs at 2.8 GHz. It has a 2TB hard drive, DVD rewritable drive, and a single stick of 8GB DDR4 RAM. It is and has been a very good office computer, as that is what I originally purchased it for. So to get into this computer, there's 2 screws here and here for the cover. They are regular screws, not thumb screws or anything like that. So and once I get this cover off, we'll be able to see some of the modifications that I've already done to this computer. So I've added an GeForce GTX 1650 graphics card here, and originally this computer came with 1 stick of 8GB DDR4 RAM, and I've got 2 in there. Each are 16 gigabytes DDR4. 32 gigabytes is definitely overkill for this computer. And before you jump into the comments and say that I shouldn't have wasted my money on that, in actuality, I was only going to upgrade to 16 gigs, but the 2 sticks of 16 gigabyte were $1 more than 2 sticks of 8 gigabytes. So, hey, I thought I would splurge for that extra $1, being on sale and everything. And I have actually put in a 500 gig SSD in here already, but I just use that as a backup drive for putting video files and stuff on after I have finished making them and stuff. So we are going to change out that SSD drive with a 2TB one. Then I can make it my boot drive and everything else. All right, so to access where the SSD is a little bit complicated. First thing you have to do is take this plate off right here, which holds the 2TB Barracuda drive in there right now. So it is 4 screws So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that just slides out like this. Disconnect it from the board. And disconnect it from the power supply. So there is my 2 terabyte drive that I have right in there right now. Now, the SSD is right under here. So to access it, you have to take off this, which is the disk drive. And that's a little bit annoying, so I will show you how to do that. And also, I am going to change the CMOS battery here, just because I'm in here today. So, you can see there's 3 plastic clips here. Those have to be unclipped, and they don't unclip easily. And then this whole front cover just pries off. It feels like it's going to break, but it's really just prying off. And that went flying off was the cover for the CD drive. And then normally this is held in by 3 screws. I lost one when I originally did this, so now it's just 2 screws. And then this whole system will just slide out. Of course, when you're doing that, you also have to disconnect it from the board. Disconnect the power supply, and your CD drive is out. And now move the rat's nest of wires out of the way, because of course this being a business computer, they weren't expecting it to make it all pretty like a gaming computer. And one of the problems is, of course, there's nothing for doing cable management behind the back plate here. So now we'll take out this drive and put in this drive. Okay, to take out the SSD, you're going to need a Phillips head size 0. Preferably a magnetic head, because otherwise it's not that easy to get a hold of that tiny little screw. And out that comes. So these are PCI Gen 3 hard drives, because I don't think a Gen 4 will work in here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but now it's a good thing that I already had a screw, because this one is so cheap it didn't come with one. This hard drive. Took a little bit to get that to fit in, but of course then if you've never done one of these SSDs before, when they go in, they just stick up in the air like that. And then you just push them down gently. And insert your screw to hold it in place. And there you go. Now, to put it back together, you just do everything in reverse. And of course, the way that this computer is designed, all of this rat's nest of cabling is tucked away underneath the disk drive here. So not exactly the most elegant solution, but as you can't actually see inside of this case, not really a big problem. And while we've got the case open, I am going to change out the CMOS battery. Alright, I just fiddled with it until it popped out. So, that's a 2032 battery. So, there we go. New one in there. And the other thing that I want to do while I have it open is, of course, clean off the disgusting little CPU cooler here. All right, let's get this back together and yeah, see if we can make that drive our boot drive. Okay, so I've turned the computer on after putting it all back together, and it went into the BIOS because, of course, the CMOS battery was removed. And yeah, I then realized that I didn't hit record, so it's still in the middle of booting up. So we'll see how this goes. One of the main reasons that I am switching over to this SSD is because at this point, it takes forever to boot up off of that hard drive that's in there. So we'll see in a few minutes whether everything is still working properly or whether I broke the computer. And there we go. We are ready to be signed in as me. And now the slow, arduous process of everything booting up, which is one thing I hope the SSD is going to greatly improve. And the time is correct. All right. This computer is working. And here we are on my very messy desktop. So the first thing to do is go over and right-click Windows, go into Disk Management. Now, as you can see, the disk 1 is the one that we just put in here, and it is currently unallocated. So let's format it. All right, so now the computer can actually see it. So we're going to be using a program here called Disk Genius. Now, apparently this is free. Hopefully we'll find out if it really is. If it is, I will put a link to this program down in the description. One of the things I've found with a few of these programs, they say they're free, you download them, you can do a few things with it, but as soon as you go to try and copy an entire hard drive over to a new hard drive that you're going to be using, then all of the sudden you have to get a paid subscription, which is usually fairly expensive and really dumb, because why would I want to subscribe to something like this when I only plan on using it once, probably every, I don't know how many years, unless I actually had a computer business. So you want to go to OS Migration. And disk 1 is our target disk. It automatically chooses the disk that you're migrating as the one that is running, in this case, Windows. So warning that all the programs on the target disk will be overwritten, which doesn't matter. I don't have any on there. Okay, I guess we'll try this when finished. Change computer boot sequence. We'll automatically enter the BIOS so that we can manually set the boot disk. Okay, well, let's try that. And here we go. It is into actually copying over the disks. So according to the timer there, it's going to take about 16 hours. So I guess this isn't going to be done till tomorrow morning. So I went away for a couple of hours, and I come back and I see I've only got an hour and 36 minutes left for this to finish copying, which means significantly less than the 16 hours that it said. So I will get to be able to start working on making this my boot drive in about an hour and a half. We are just about finished here, and we are just about 5 hours into this, so nowhere near the initial 16 hours it said it was going to take. There we go. So, go to boot options. Very interesting on this computer. I can't see anywhere where you can I guess it being the Windows Boot Manager is what you want. I guess maybe that means I have to remove the old hard drive. I'm going to try turning this computer on from a complete power off. When I was doing this before, it felt like it took about a half an hour, but it was probably closer to about 5 minutes. So let's see how long it takes now. We're getting to this point was certainly a lot quicker. This was the long part, waiting for all of the programs to load, which they're loaded. And there. Those are always the last things to load. So yeah. I would say 1,000 times faster. Now you may be wondering, why did I even spend money on a computer this old and this low specs and everything? Well, 2 reasons. It's what I could afford, and it actually is not that bad for a really low, kind of a low-end gaming computer. Especially for me. In case you wanted to take a look at the disks, as you can see here, disk 1, which is the one that the SSD, is now my disk C on it, and it automatically renumbered disk 0 to disk E, so I can continue using that to back up all my files onto, if I would like to. Normally when I'm playing games on this computer, I'm playing it on things like RetroArch here. So, if you don't know it, RetroArch is a system where you can put a bunch of different systems on here. So I've got like Atari games, Coleco games, and television games, Super NES games, and PlayStation 1 games. And as you can see, it's frame locked at 60 frames per second. Easily does that. It's only using not even half of the GPU. to do this, and temperatures are a little bit up right now because I have had this computer on for a while and I've been playing around with it, but as you can see, absolutely no fluctuation in the 60 frames per second that I get out of playing on this. And honestly, playing these older games like this, you're not going to get much more than 60 frames, or you're not going to need anything other, usually more than 30 frames per second. So if I want to play a game that's a little more modern, usually I'll choose something like this, like Diablo 3. It's one that I play quite often. So on the current settings, the ones that I usually keep this game at, we're getting, yeah, look at that, about 140 frames per second. Staying pretty consistent when you get a bunch of stuff on the screen. Dropping down to about 130, 140. There we go. So now that is at 1920 by 1080. High texture, medium shadow quality, high physics, medium clutter density, and multi-sample 4 times low anti-aliasing. If we turn everything up to full, put this into full complete 4K. So here we have Diablo 3. This is actually just, I'm filming straight on with my camera because it did some weird things when I tried to record it in 4K on my capture, my OBS capture. Well, this is what it looked like here. But as you can see, even from this OBS capture, we're still getting about 40 to 45 frames per second, sometimes going up a little higher if there's nothing else on the screen. But yeah, running pretty good at full, everything turned up as high as it can go. It is, of course, using quite a bit of the GPU to do this, but that's part of what it's for. So just to try something a little more modern, I have a game here that I've been playing around with lately called Once Human. It is, I would say it's probably mildly graphically intense, so how well this looks on here. So right now, if you look at the settings, graphics, running in full screen, 1920 by 1080. No restrictions to the frame rate. You can read that if you want to. You can see that. Let's go out and run around in the field a little bit. Well. So you can see how that looks. And we're currently running at 40 to 45 frames per second. So at a mildly, and I mean, I don't even have this set to the lowest settings. So textures on the walls look pretty darn good. there we go. The machine is humming along beautifully, and hopefully will continue to do so for some time yet, at least until I can afford to get another computer. I mean, I'm so happy with this one right now, much happier than I've been with it in a while, that, yeah, I'm not even thinking about a new computer right now. So, as I showed you, it's actually not that bad for playing some moderate, modern games on it. And for me, it's more than what I need because mostly what I play is old stuff. And the editing works great on it. I've never really had much of a problem with editing on it. So, yeah, it kind of is the ideal computer for me at this point. And yeah, that upgrade is certainly a great one. If I was going to play more modern games on it a bit more, I might add an aftermarket CPU cooler to it. That would be the only thing I might do, and probably bump up the power supply because that's a pretty chintzy little 300-watt power supply in that. So, yeah. I also have to give a big thank you to Retro Rewind, without whom making these videos would not be possible because he is my channel sponsor. And if you don't know Retro Rewind, they sell all kinds of awesome stuff for your Commodore computers and your Coco computers. So if you have old Commodores or old TRS-80 Coco computers, then that is the store to check out at www.retrorewind.ca. And at checkout, if you use my discount code of CRT10, you save 10%. He ships worldwide, so it's definitely worth checking out. All right, well, that's all I have to say for today, so I hope you enjoyed this slightly different video from what I usually make. If you liked it, give it a like, give it a comment, give it a thumbs up, and, you know, subscribe to the channel and all that other YouTube-y stuff that you're supposed to say. And I will see you in the next video.